Hey heroes, welcome back. Ser Ezra and Sir Matt here in Extended Edition, ready to talk about a couple things actually today. So we're going to talk about Moiraine. Moiraine has exited. She is gone. She's a goner, Matt. Over. Dead.
She might be deader than that girl Rand tried to revive with Kalendor.
I hope not, but if she is, then she truly is dead, right? So she is gone, and she made this sacrifice. She took out Landfear in this last book. So what we thought we would do, this is kind of a two-parter. So we're going to go back over Moraine's arc and just talk a little bit about some of the big takeaways. We're going to pull up the Wikipedia page, a couple more resources, and just kind of read some of it, commentate on it, and then we're going to talk about where she went, the realm to where she went. And it honestly, so like it's more about that Tir-en-Grial. We know she goes through that door, and we know that she is. So we are all the way up through the Fires of Heaven. We have not gotten into Lord of Chaos. We are right at the end of this, about to go into Lord of Chaos. So this is our kind of last, just for a point of reference, and her arc and the arc of the Elfin and this Tir-en-Grial. That's where we're at, right? So spoilers up through that point, I guess, if you will. So Moraine's arc is where we're going to start, and then we'll get to the red door frame and talk about its significance and the people who live there, man. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, as well, I guess we'll just sort of start with Moiraine here. So, I mean, we first see her, right, in the Eye of the World, and when she shows up, it's sort of mysterious. Ooh, who is this person? What is she doing? Beltane is going on. Remember that we've also just saw this mysterious hooded person, right, on the road, and then she gives these kids a coin.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was a cool little thing. That was like. It's interesting how things like that kind of drop off, like the power, like because that was a big deal. She could track them with the coin, and we haven't seen anything really like that in a while. I mean, God, you know who should have been given coins were the girls, right? Like the girls when they go on their trip to chase down the Black Aja. By
Seriously.
God, somebody give them a coin so you can figure out where the heck they're at. But anyway, yeah. So that was kind of cool. Moiraine shows up and she's got Lan and Mistress Alice, and she knows people. You can tell she's been around this area, and she is respected. She's from Cairhien, so we know she's from Cairhien. House Damodred is a house that we get to later on, and we see that she's essentially of royalty to some degree. And Matt and I just started reading a bit of New Spring, and we get to see her as before the series starts. We get to actually, there's a whole book of the New Spring where it talks about she and Siuan and how she became obsessed with tracking down the dragon, and how she became obsessed with trying to find Rand. And really, in the beginning, we don't know that it's Rand. We're just looking for the dragon reborn, and we're off on this quest. But it's because of this foretelling. Gitara Morosa is she's in the tower back in the day, and so that foretelling happens. Boom. The Amarylline seat sends out 5 seekers, and she and Siuan were privy to that, and they themselves go on their own quest to kind of like, we got to find out who the dragon is. And that's how we end up in the Eye of the World, chasing this individual down. And the Eye of the World is cool. I mean, the stuff that she does, like she takes us on, she's processing information, and you see Moiraine at the height, right? She kind of goes away in the Great Hunt, and then she comes back in the Dragon Reborn, and then the Shadow Rising, she's there, but doing her own thing, going to Rudion and still struggling with Rand. And then Fires of Heaven, like she's really struggling with him, but yet calmer and more accepting of her role. It's a roller coaster ride with Moiraine. So yeah, I guess from in the Eye of the World, what were your favorite moments, of Moiraine in that?
Yeah, I mean, I really do like when she sort of shows up, I think the first time, just because it's so sort of cool and mysterious, and who is this person and what's going on. There's a Gleeman showing up, and so I think it's just sort of, I do think her introduction is one of the best things, in all honesty, in the series. I think it's just one of I think those first early chapters are just, honestly, chapters 1 through 10 of The Eye of the World are such a good introduction to any fantasy book or any book I've ever read, and seriously, I legitimately think it's an amazing introduction to a series, because there's just so many moving pieces. So I really just sort of like when she first sort of shows up. Then I think it's kind of cool because when she's immediately sort of training Egwene, right, when they're out on the road, and she's sort of showing her how to how to sort of channel, and here I'll sort of teaches her sort of how to do it too. I think is really cool. And then ultimately, I think just for Eye of the World, right at the end, when she sort of realizes, like, oh yeah, I've got something pretty serious here.
Yeah, right, exactly, and that's a big deal. So she just is she knows so much about the pattern, the power, the ways, the Eye of the World. She knows so many of these things that come up to the characters. They're like, without Moiraine, they would have no idea what these things mean. There's an Ogier who gets involved, who tells them stuff about the traveling people. It's connected to the Aiel. All this stuff, when you look back on it, you can see the connections, but like out front, it's very disconnected. You're a little lost, actually, and you need Moiraine to kind of help sift through it all and tell you what's important, what's not important, and which direction they need to go. So yeah, like when she takes them to the Eye of the World and she has those moments, that battle at the end of the Eye of the World is nuts. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then as we move into the Great Hunt, like you said, she does go away just to sort of a little bit, right?
Right.
We don't see her as much, and then she sort of starts to get into it a little bit with Rand. This is where it sort of begins, where Rand is like, "Why isn't she telling me anything?" Remember, he sort of gets upset that she's like not telling him anything.
Yes, exactly. And she, I think, in that book too, it's very different. The girls go to Tar Valon, and she's meeting with the Amerlin Seat. We see her in the beginning in Valdara, and she's talking about Podon Fane and how evil he is. And we get that there's a relationship, and Varen Sedai shows up. You start to understand the different Ajas and what's going on there in Valdara. But once they leave there, Moiraine doesn't go with them to the White Tower and really takes a big back seat. It's actually Varen of the Brown who goes with Rand, and then we follow the girls and we learn about the blue Aja, the red Aja, green, yellow, the grays and whites, and so on. It's
Where's she at, by the way?
Who? Which one?
Varen.
So right now, she's still with Perrin. Remember? So
right. That's right. Yes, yep. You're right.
And we'll see what happens. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's more like, I can't wait for Lord of Chaos, because there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we haven't read about at all in this book, because Perrin wasn't in it, so we get to skip out on. But Varen's cool. Like going from a blue a blue Aes Sedai to a brown Aes Sedai is cool. You see the difference in between them, and Varen's obsession with Rand and the Taviran. And Moiraine, she goes to see other individuals like who are like almost retired Aes Sedai, and she's attacked, and she's trying to get information. It's a real small chapter. I almost forget where it's at. I was trying to find out where we were looking this up here, but she goes to learn more about the prophecies of the dragon and the Koreathon cycle, and she's trying to understand and interpret those prophecies better for Rand. Like, what does he have to do next? So first it's the Eye of the World. When does he go and get Kalendor? When does he fulfill these other things? What are the markers he has to hit? So for her, she needs to go do that. Right now, the quest is go get the horn back and go on your own and go do that, be a part of that group, and embrace who you are. So, yeah.
Okay, well, after that, I mean, she does go back. She goes back to the Amerlin Seat, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, so exactly. So after the Great Hunt, so it actually, I kind of almost summarized all the Great Hunt there, like, because she's really not in it. Right. She basically is there, like I said, seeking information. Then at the end, she shows up and she's with Rand after he's had his battle over Falma, right? I mean, so he has that battle over Falma, the epic ending with Ingtar, which I love so much, and all of that. And that is, Moiraine, really, her role picks back up in The Dragon Reborn, when she travels with Rand all the way. So it's kind of ironic that, like, she has a meeting with the Amerlin, like you said, and she's meeting with him in Faldara, but she never comes to the tower. So when we saw the trailer, you and I were going like, Moiraine doesn't go to the tower as far as we know. So, like, there's I mean, they're wanting to get her back and to talk to her, but she talks to a group of them that go to Faldara, but they don't. The Amerlin Seat does not normally move out of Tar Valon. Like, it's a big deal when she moves and goes with a group of people to seek someone out. So yeah.
And then, honestly, as we get to her in the, honestly, really in the Dragon Reborn, and even the Shadow Rising a little bit, she's just sort of kind of advising Rand.
Yes, that's it. I mean, So in
even in the Fires of Heaven, she's just kind of advising Rand.
yes, she basically yeah, she goes into the Dragon Reborn, and she's with him when the Earth is quaking, and they lose track of him for a while too, right? So she's with him, loses track of him, and Rand goes on that little arc where Rand disappears and he's gone, and she's with Perrin, and she's with the other Taviran, and realizes that they shouldn't be ignored, that their strength is very important, and maybe she's been neglecting that X factor, that you have two other Taviran surrounding Rand, and so they go all the way down to Ilion, and she has like the Darkhounds are there, and she's fighting them, right? So Moiraine has to lead that group trying to figure out where Rand is going. They assume Rand is going to Tyr to collect Kalendor in the Dragon Reborn, and she's right. So they have to make their way there. And along the way, she figures out that there is a Forsaken in Ilion who is Samael, who's pretending to be one of the High Lords there. And so, and then there, so there's a whole kind of like side arc there where other characters are developing, and Rand just takes that back seat, and she's leading a different group. And then when she gets to, when she's in Tyr, and she helps Rand, she fights one of the Forsaken there, defeats them. Rand has his battle with the Shamael or Baalzamon, whichever one, however you want to call it. And yeah, she's talking with Matt about all of the Tyr Grial. You have that cool scene down in the basement where Moiraine, Matt, and Rand all walk through the door. They walk through the stone, like the red door, Tyr Grial and Tyr. And is it red or is it yellow? I have to go back and look. But they go through and they ask their questions and whatnot. So which kind of helps her decide what information to share with Rand and what not to share with him, kind of thing. So. Right. Yeah, but then that propels us right into the Shadow Rising, where, as you said, she's just an advisor, and we get to the part where she goes to Rudion.
Yeah, she does go to Rudion with him, and then really it's Rand is doing so much more sort of consulting with the Aiel chiefs that when she speaks up, it seems sort of like, oh wow, you kind of forget that Moiraine is there, but really she is sort of. I think Moiraine realizes that the dragon, there's this sort of difference, I guess, between the new Aes Sedai and Eliada, right, running the show, who's saying we need to go get Rand and bring him back here so that nothing happens to him before the last battle, as opposed to Moiraine, who's saying, well, if he is the Dragon Reborn, then he's going to be the one who leads us into the last battle. And I think that's really sort of her thing, is sort of a hands-off approach right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then with all the information that she's gathering, it does kind of change how she approaches him and her initial plan with Suan. It's really interesting because Suan she was with Moiraine on all of this, and they hatched this plan together, but Moiraine has been out there in the field doing this, and as she's reading the pattern, she is making decisions based upon what the pattern is giving her and how she sees it. The wheel is weaving a web of destiny, right? That's the phrase she uses when Loial talks about them being Taviran, which is back in Caemlyn in the first book. So, it's kind of wild. Here's a couple things. I'll point out just some bullet points to move us forward. So after she balefires, by the way, she uses balefire on those Darkhounds and Baal, the Forsaken. So she's balefiring everybody too, even though you're not supposed to do it.
Right, exactly.
Right, So she receives a letter from Lanfear stating that Rand is hers. She goes to the Tyr Grial doorway in Tyr, which we said she gets her questions answered. Rand teleports everyone, including Moiraine, to Rudion via portal stones. Moiraine goes through the Tyr Grial and Rudion. She loads up all kinds of Tyr Grial, Angreal, and Saw Angreal in Rudion to be taken to the White Tower. Moiraine gives Rand letters from Elida and Alviarin, which is cool. We got to talk about that later. Moiraine falls through a Tyr Angreal to the world of the Elfin and the Fires of Heaven. And so that is where you and I are at. That's what we're calling kind of our part 1 to Moiraine. That's where her arc is ending for us. And Matt's already kind of, there's a world, right? She goes to this world. So is she dead? Is she not dead? And again, in our reread, Matt is inferring that she's alive. So
she's about to come back as more, she's about to Gandalf it. She's going to be more, no longer the blue. She's going to be like the white or something. Well, maybe not that, but something like that.
Yeah. So let me just, I guess, quickly go over this world that they go into. The realm of the elfin is made up of entirely straight lines, and the air has a smell of a wild animal's lair. Its true location is unknown, though there are two ways to reach it. One being the red stone doorframe Tirangrial in Rudion, the other the Tower of Genjai. In the middle of a huge star-shaped chamber, the twisted frame Tirangrial stands on a dull white floor that looks like glass, but feels like dusty stone. The walls are lined with thick, glossy black columns, each deeply fluted with 8 ridges, the sharp edges yellow and glowing softly, rising into the murky gloom overhead. This would be kind of cool to see, right? In the TV show, this would be really a cool thing for them to use some of those colors and descriptions to take us to this world. At either end of the chamber, a 5-sided doorway leads into a corridor that is exactly the same size and shape as before, with those softly glowing yellow stripes running along the bends, edging the floor and the ceiling. It seems to stretch ahead forever, fading into a murky distance, broken only at intervals by more of the great 5-sided doorways. So this world does not follow the rules of physics as the real world does. When Matt looks back at the first of the doorways, expecting to see the twisted Tirangrial in the middle of the white-floored chamber, what he actually sees is a mirror image of what lies ahead of him, the hallway running as far as as he can see. In every room, he sees the black columns, the red stone Tirangrial, his footsteps, and his guides in the dust. Like, it's a crazy mind trip. It makes me think of like when you go into a room full of mirrors or whatever, those kind of funny houses or whatever at circuses and things where you walk in and it's all distorted and crazy. So yeah, but the chamber that contains those, there's a chamber that you eventually get to where they grant the wishes of the people who come in and they're asking the questions, right? So that is, it's got like gray walls, glassy black pedestals standing at each of the 8 points of the star-shaped room. Here, glowing yellow stripes run up the sharp edges too. Once entered, the doorway leading into the chamber will disappear when not looked at. The only way to leave the world then will be to sacrifice a wish for that very purpose. Okay. I'm gonna see how much I can read here of this. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. This is where they go in. This is where Matt, he went in there, had his whole experience, and
right,
ends up hung. Actually, right, he ends up being hung and getting his staff, his medallion, Foxhead medallion. So Aes Sedai can't channel Adam and stuff like that. So. Yeah, I mean that's the world where she goes. So and just so you know too, the Elfin are a race of beings who combined human-like appearance with fox-like characteristics. Let's see. Yeah, they will grant 3 wishes to anyone who visits them, although they want something in return, even if they do not ask straight out. If no price is negotiated, the Elfin will choose one, which is death in most cases. So.
Right, and we don't know really the history on them, like just how this.
Yeah, you can tell there is some sort of like ancient agreement about like what they can and can't bring into that world, but it's just different. Yeah, so. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, we will find out more when we get, when we explore it more.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just kind of a weird world that she's at, and I just thought I'd bring this up again. This is the place in which she's going back. We know Matt went through there and the consequences. He had a terrible time in there, but he does, gain something from it, and Lanfear's there too. So, or is she? I mean, like that's the question. The door burns up and melts away. So, is she there at all? I don't know, but
no.
Or are they dead?
They're all dead.
They're all dead. It doesn't even matter. This should have been Moiraine, the complete plotline arc, and yeah, it's over for her. God,
she's deader. She's deader than that girl.
She is.
It's cool. Actually, I am looking forward to learning more about this world. It's like, my gosh, man, how many of these different parallel worlds and universes and realms are there?
Yeah, it is, right? So you have the portal stones, which is interesting, and then you've got Teleron Riyadh, you've got the Dream World. That's a place
And
we
different
go.
and different people sort of use it differently. Like, hey, we can use the Teleron Riyadh to get in there, but then also Perrin can do it, right? Because he's like at the Wolf
Yeah,
Dreams.
yeah. You can enter in the flesh now, which we know. You can go through Tiran Grial, and then you have these other worlds where you can go get wishes granted. So it's high fantasy. I mean, Robert Jordan has created a high fantasy type of thing that there's still a lot of questions. There's still a lot of mystery to these different realms and things. So I actually sometimes I do these because I need a refresher. I need to go back myself and like look into what we're all because they're just one chapter where you go and almost like your player in your video game goes there and gets all these treasures and rewards and has consequences and learns information and stuff, and then they come back and they use all of that in their great quest. And that's really what Matt did, and Moiraine did that down in Tyr, and she's learned stuff. Rand went there as well, so and I'm talking about the one in Tyr is different. Actually, it's a slightly different realm, so there's two different places that you can go. So anyway, just sort of an update on Moraine's arc and where she's at, and she's pour one out for her because she's a goner. But we wanted to talk about her arc because we looks like this is it, man. Looks like we're done talking about her for a while. So
interesting, yeah. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for supporting us here on Patreon, checking out our extended editions as well as Apple Podcasts. We've seen a lot more people have been signing up for that too, which I think is great because I think it is sort of a great deal because you can get access to the whole sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's definitely pretty cool. So anyway, appreciate that support, guys, and stay tuned for more because I think Ez has a big spoiler edition coming too. So with that, thank you, and remember that the grave is no bar to our call.